Hi, good day everyone, or good night. In this particular presentation, what I want to do is simply look at questions number 1 and 2 on the first worksheet. Question 1 simply asks the question, which of the following can be classified as microeconomics or macroeconomics, and then state a reason why. We can recall that microeconomics looks at the issues that affect the economy from an individualistic point of view. That is, issues that affect the firm, or issues that can affect a consumer, or even issues that pertain to the state as an entity within an economy. So microeconomics looks at issues that affect the individual economic agents within an economy, whereas macroeconomics looks at issues that affect the economy as a whole. So things such as inflation and economic growth, these are economic phenomena that affect not only just households. It does not just affect the firms, but it affects households, firms, and the state. Inflation affects everyone. That is why it is a macroeconomic concept. Now that we have those definitions underway, let's begin looking at the questions. 1A asks the question, research into why the growth rate of total production in Barbados increased during the 1990s. Now, this question focuses on Barbados as a nation. It is not focusing on a particular firm, but technically all of the firms that operate in Barbados, hence the total production in Barbados as a nation. As a result, this is not a micro concept, but rather it is a macroeconomic concept. Okay? So therefore, this has to do with macroeconomics simply because it looks at the total production of Barbados, which in this case we can call it gross domestic product. B, a theory of how consumers decide what to buy. A theory of how consumers decide what to buy looks at all consumers that exist in a nation. Now, think about it this way. We're not asking about an individual consumer, but we're asking about the consumers of an entire nation. Who are the consumers of an entire nation? Well, do households buy? Do firms buy? Do firms consume? Does the state consume services in order to provide services for its citizens? The answer for all of those three questions are yes. So households are consumers. Firms are also consumers because they must consume They must consume raw materials in order to provide the goods and services that we need. Similarly to the government. As a result, B relates to macroeconomics because it looks at the theory of how consumers from a national perspective decide what to buy. An analysis of IBM's share of the personal computer market in Jamaica. Now this question looks at one particular firm that operates in Jamaica, not all of the firms, one particular firm. And seeing as this focuses on one particular firm, therefore means that this is a microeconomic concept, not a macroeconomic concept. So C is microeconomics. And lastly, research on why interest rates were unusually high in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Well, who was affected by interest rates? Is it just us in the households? Is it just firms who seek to borrow money to invest? Is it just the state who has to run a deficit budget? No. All of us, households, the firms, and the state, are faced with interest rates at any point in time. As a result of this particular question is a macroeconomic concept. So we have dealt with number 1. Let's move on to number 2. What is the opportunity cost of each of the following? Let us recall that opportunity cost can be defined as the value of or the cost of forfeiting the next best alternative each time we make a choice. So for instance, 2A looks at attending your next economics class meeting. you need to ask yourself the question, what are you giving up when you actually make the choice of attending your economics class meeting? Well, you actually are forfeiting leisure. So if it is that you have to go theater with a friend, so therefore the opportunity cost of you attending your next economics class meeting would be the leisure foregone or forfeited when you do not go to the theater with a friend. In reading some of the assignments for some students, a person said the opportunity cost could be forfeiting to go to a church function or a church meeting, all right, because you actually forfeit going to this church function in order to be able to go to your economics class meeting. So let's move on to B. Skipping your next economics class meeting. Now, if you choose to skip your next economics class meeting, it means that you may be actually choosing to engage in leisure as opposed to going to class. Now, if you forfeit going to your next economics class meeting, it means you are forfeiting whatever knowledge you could have gained in this class. As a result, your opportunity cost of B is forfeiting the knowledge that you could have gained if you attended this economics class meeting. And 2C, taking an all expenses paid trip to the Bahamas for a week during this semester. Well, if you choose to go on a trip, what you forego, your next best alternative could have been the time that you could have taken as a student to invest in doing your homework, studying, and preparing yourself for whatever quizzes, exams, and final exams that you would have for this particular course. As such, in choosing to go on the trip, you forfeit all other activities that you could have engaged in if you had not gone. So remember, opportunity cost is the cost or the value of the next best alternative that you forfeit each time you make a choice. So I hope that my explanations for numbers 1 and 2 for this worksheet were clear. I have already posted up a video presentation from one of our e-tutors, Miss Pettigay Campbell, who has done, I believe, a very wonderful job in explaining numbers 3 and 4. And I encourage you students to leave any feedback on the forums so that we can know exactly what questions are giving you issues so we can address those for you. Do have a good day, and I encourage you all to continue putting your best foot forward. Thank you.